working the body, handsome and witty. Hey, welcome back to Frank's Modelworks. I'm Frank. Third part of building Dylan's 1972 Dodge Dart Swinger B5 Blue. What you're going to see in this episode has already been applied to the body. We're going to be working the body. So the foundation that you lay when you take your body and prep it for paint is by far the most important part. Preparation for your body is paramount to achieving a relatively decent finish. And I like to be honest with the way that I make these videos. Relatively decent is a pretty good descriptor of my work. They're okay. I'm my own worst critic. Because I see the flaws, my eyes go right to the problems. You know, most things that people will never see, my eye goes right to them. So, but the foundation that you do in the preparation and the prep work is going to pay dividends later, because it's going to make this part, which, you know, the kind of paints that I use, especially in this one, scalefinishes.com B5 Brite Blue, it's Basecoat. It's automotive Basecoat. It's fairly easy to apply. 20 psi out of a 0.3 millimeter double action gravity feed internal mix airbrush. It goes on pretty easily, and it's for me to accomplish it's pretty foolproof. See what it did there? And the 2K clear that I use from Splash Paints is also very forgiving, very straightforward. The hard part is, you know, your wet sanding and your polishing. I'm never going to produce, and I don't know how people do it, because, I mean, look at where I am. I'm in the basement. The dryer's right there with the dust trap. So this is the dust nexus of the known universe. So any piece of dust, if you have a piece of dust in your living room, it either came from this basement or it's on its way here to land right on one of my model car bodies. I'm never going to have a model car body that's just perfect. Once I've cleared it or painted it, it's just not going to happen. It's where I got to work. I got to deal with what I got to deal with, and getting dust particles out of my paint is just part of my workflow at this point. It happens. I'm going to go over what I had to do in order to, and I've gone over this in the past, but things need reinforcement, because not everybody goes back and is going to look through. And, you know, I do have a series on body finishing where I cover this kind of stuff, but there's other considerations with using a cast resin body that, you know, there's the width, the wall thickness of the sides is, on this body in particular, was pretty thick, that needed to be ground down in order for everything else to fit. So that's what we're going to be covering in this episode. I apologize in advance if it's a little bit long in the tooth, but you know how I roll. I try to provide you with information and stuff that you can use in your own hobby, so that you have a more enjoyable experience. And at the end of the day, that's what's important. You know, like, I hear people say, build for you. Absolutely. But in this case, I'm not building for me. I'm building for somebody else. And I'm building actually for somebody to then give that to somebody else. And I want both of those people to be happy with the result, because I find this entire hobby and everything that relates to it as a way to reach out to other human beings. And in the world we live in today, that's the important thing. We need to start reaching out to each other, being nicer to each other, and doing good things for each other. The world's going to be a better place. So if I could show you a way to make this hobby more enjoyable, then your life might be more enjoyable. And I could put my head on a pillow at night and say to myself, all right, you did something useful, at least. So, enough before I start crying. I'm not going to start crying. You're going to start crying. So let's get to the footage. Hold on.
I am very sorry, but I forgot to film. And look at where we are already. I've already got the B5 bright blue paint on. Now, I unfortunately had to call an audible. The grill that I was going to be using from the resin body by SMH Resins, I don't think it was really the best way to go. Because the 72 Darts grill has more square than long rectangular turn signals in it. And this is actually a grill from folks on eBay called A Few Sprues Loose. I'll have a link naturally in the description. This is actually for the for a 1972 Dodge Demon that can be used with this kit, the 71 Dodge Demon, the recent re-release by round 2 of the MPC. So Demons and Darts are, as far as the front clip goes, are very, very similar. So this was a near drop-in fit. There really wasn't much to do, just a little bit of building up around here. And now on Dylan's car, he has his grill blacked out, and there's some chrome accents, so I'll replicate that and moving forward. That did necessitate, though, on the hood, in order to get a decent gap over here, I had to build up a little bit on the lip of the hood. Now you'll see there's still a little bit in the reveal. There's a little bit of a gap there, but nowhere near what there was. So like I said, that necessitated a little bit of buildup of some sheet styrene and some putty in this area, that little, in order to close that gap up. So we're gonna put some clear coat on that. And the paint itself, like I said before, is Scale Finishes B5 Bright Blue for 1972, which, as Breyer tells me, is the actual color of Dylan's car. So that's why I picked that. And I'm going to be hitting this with 2K clear and polishing it and rubbing it out and making sure it looks good for our friend Dylan. I needed some high back buckets to replicate Dylan's car, and they had to have a vertical upholstery pattern in them. So I got these out of the AMT 1974, I believe it is, snap together Barracuda. I'll put a picture of that box top up now. And that's going to go in onto, this is from a 68 Dart. I sanded off the upholstery detail for the back seat because that's not right for 72. The 72 had vertical striations that I'm going to either etch in after I paint it or maybe even draw in. I was at first going to put like, I have a piece of styrene that has ribbing in it, but it's very, very thick and really wouldn't have worked out well. Would have been a swift pain in the neck and probably would have wound up looking more like tuck and roll upholstery in the end. Whereas the pictures that Breyer sent me, it's just a plain white interior. So I'll bring you back in as soon as I have something else to tell you. And I'm sorry I didn't show you more of this. This was actually a series of prime, fix, prime, fix, prime, fix. And I never was happy with what was going on with the grill that I was going to use. In fact, I don't even think I have it anymore. I might have gave it to Heave Ho. This grill, though, I got the idea from Raul over at Muscle Car Modeler. He's actually building a 72 Demon. And if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have known these were available. So that's a big save. Thanks a lot, Raul. Appreciate it. So, like I said, as things progress, I'll bring you back in. All right? Hold on. I think I have something to tell you already. Whenever you have something that is molded in yellow, you might want to. It would behoove you that if you're going to paint that a different color, in this case, white would be a pain in the neck to just spray white primer onto this and try to think I'm going to get away with painting it white. It's going to bleed through. So, I have found in my travels that a really good sealer and primer for yellow plastic, or something that's originally yellow plastic, is pink primer. So I'm going to hit these with pink primer. Believe it or not, if you have to paint something yellow that's, say, white to begin with, pink is also an excellent primer for yellow. So think of that. If your substrate is yellow, prime it in pink, and then prime it whatever color you want, and then paint it whatever color you want. If you want to paint something yellow, prime it in pink. So just keep that in mind. I'll be right back after I prime it. So after priming with the pink primer, this is what we're left with. And then over this, I'll just prime probably with Tamiya white or Splash Paints Surfacer. The way plastic is formulated nowadays, it's not like the bleed that I'm talking about is literally just color bleed. It's not necessarily as if the solvents in the paint are going to activate any type of the dyes in the plastic. That's not really a thing. That would be more of a thing for like a vintage kit from maybe the 60s and 70s, but modern in the sense maybe the 90s up until now, that really wouldn't be very much of an issue. And the reason why I'm priming it is just to get something over the yellow, because the yellow plastic, the color will bleed through, not the dye from the plastic. So it's just a matter of getting coverage to drown out the color yellow and not building up too many layers of paint so that this starts to look clunky and you lose detail. So that's how I did that. In the interim, I've also cleaned all of the parts, removed parting lines, ejector pin marks, and for the door handles, bring you in a little tighter. For the door handles, I drilled and pinned so that it's easier to place them onto the body. And these are also the mirrors. Now on Dylan's car, the mirrors appear to be blacked out, so I will black these out, and that's according to pictures of the car that I've seen online. I didn't see, like, there might have been something hanging off a couple of the pictures that Breyer sent me. So, and he only has a driver's side mirror, so I'll check with Breyer before drilling the hole. Maybe I'll add both mirrors. I'm building not an exact one, perfect replica of Dylan's car, because it has changed over time. He's works on it from time to time, takes some parts off to use on another car. So I'm going to build like a stylized, idealized replica of his car, based very closely on the pictures of the car that I could find where it was in its best condition under his ownership. So that's what I'm building a replica of. So as things progress, I will let you know. So just fabricated up a little chin spoiler, front air dam, whatever you want to call it. I guess I would call it a chin spoiler. You know the deal. I'll get contradicted down below. So that'll go in under here like so. Almost, you know, fairly well prototypical of Dylan's car. If that would cooperate. It's going to fit in just about like that. And angle forward slightly, which is what that little lip is for. And that'll be painted semi-gloss black, much like the grille and the mirrors. So, now that everything is pretty much ready for primer and paint, we're going to be moving. So I'll bring you back in once everything's primed and get the engine ready. The engine is going to be 3D printed, small block. I have all kinds, oodles of parts to build the small block Mopar, which is what Dylan's car has now. I have a series of, I could go injection, fuel injection. I could put a 6-pack on there. I got the manifold for a 6-pack that's been 3D printed. These are by Scale Auto Modelworks. Got a nice little high rise for a 4-barrel. That might look nice. You've noticed there's even a gap, a tunnel in there. Let me get my fingers out of the way so you could see, tighten it up a little bit. As you can see, there's focus, please. See how that's there's a tunnel, goes all the way through. It's amazing the way these things can print. I can put a blower on. I don't think that's the way Dylan wants to go with his. I could go dual carb tunnel ram. I don't think that's the way Dylan. In speaking with Breyer, he had said that Dylan's probably going to keep it as a 360 with a 4-barrel, single 4-barrel. So that's the way I'm going to go. The parts themselves are really, these came out really nice. Here's the block. Nice molding. Got the heads in here somewhere. Here's like a detailed head with the rockers. What's nice about this is, I don't know if I can get this to focus, but the way the spark plugs will go is already, not that it's pre-drilled, it's basically printed with the holes already there. I don't have actual spark plugs yet, but I'm sure somebody's gonna print them soon, and with the resolutions of printers these days, it's probably going to, you're probably going to be able to print them soon and use them. I have a collection of valve covers. So I'm going to probably paint most of this stuff just to get more options to show you. I just wanted to show you them in the raw so that you get an idea what we're dealing with. In this bag I have little carburetors, and I believe I have some distributors in there. There's a starter. Is that focused? Sure, why not? Fan bolt pulleys. Is that, yeah, that's a support stick. That little nub sticking off is a support on that carburetor. That should just pop off. There we go, popped it off. So there's the carb. Some options for carburetors. Ooh, what was that? Oh, it's a water pump. There's a water pump. There's an alternator. Is that power steering? Looks like power steering right there. Couple of distributors. You can print them. See on that one, you could print them with the holes for the spark plug wires. Not necessarily drilled for you already, but they're definitely started. So that's gonna be. I mean, that's usually where I screw up anyway, is putting the drill bit in for the first time. So, there's a fuel pump. Is that a fuel pump? No, is it? No, it looks like for an oil filter. Where's the fuel pump? Here's a. What is this? That looks like a power steering. These are the. Oops, something just fell. These are the oil caps. And I might have the vacuum ports. Yeah, these are the vacuum ports for the valve covers. I have so many of these extras printed. I think that was a valve cover port. So it should be good. I don't think I took any footage of when I painted the body for Dylan's 72 Dart. But we got the B5. Where are you? We got the B5 Bright Blue from scalefinishes.com on there. And then I painted it with Splash Paints 2K Clear. Came out pretty well. As you can see, I'm beginning the process of flattening down the paint so that I'm wet sanding and polishing it. As you saw in my body finishing tutorial, which coincidentally, there are the wheels that are going to go on the two bodies of the Chargers from that series. I like to use Trizact. Where are you, Trizact 3000? I might have... Oh. I start off with Trizact 3000 grit. Just cut off a little piece, about an inch by about 2 inches by an inch, and I'll sand down my surface, avoiding edges. Actually, when I get to this area over here, I'm probably gonna put tape on these edges so that I don't burn through, because those are common areas where you'll burn through. And you just work slowly. I usually put a video on in the background, and I work my way up from 3000 Trizact to 5000 grit Trizact, and then finally I finish up with 8000 grit Trizact. Once completing that, and again, well, I do all of this in my body finishing tutorial, which is also on my channel. It's, I think, up to nine episodes. I hit the body with sometimes multiple applications of Meguiar's number 105 Mirror Glaze. That's a ultra cut compound. It's a somewhat aggressive compound, but I don't polish it aggressively. To do that, I use the lanolin, the wool wheel in the ubiquitous, whatever it's called at the time, $17 to $19 cordless rotary tool that Amazon sells, and they have these. It's usually, they change the name from time to time, but it's the same thing. It looks like this, the orange with the black, and it's usually under $20. And these are just wool wheels for polishing. So as I get through each grit, I'll show you how it looks on the body itself. But after 3000 grit, I didn't have any incredibly large dust particles or flaws in the clear, so it's not that bad. It does flatten it down somewhat, and the trunk is untreated. I have a little bit of texture in there and a couple of pieces of dust that I'm gonna have to work my way out of. The sides are looking okay, not too bad. So we'll work those. I'll bring you back in as I get through each grit. Okay? Hold on. This is after 3,000 grit on the body. Oh, I gotta get that right. I try to stay out of crevices and away from edges, because sanding in here, I could introduce scratches on this surface right here. So I just try to be careful. I see a little spot right there I need to get still. As you progress through the grits, as always, stay away from sharp edges. Anywhere where you could very easily burn through the clear into the paint. Check your sanding medium often, especially if you're polishing clear coat. Look for paint. If you see paint, stop. You're gonna have to figure out where you burnt through on the clear, and figure out from there what your best option is gonna be. A lot of times, I'm not one who will generally just throw something and strip the paint because I burn through. I'll respray it, re-clear it, and do what I can. I mean, on a real car, they're not gonna chemically dip an entire car just because they burn through. You know what I mean? So I don't see the value in doing that on a model, but that's just me. Once I get through 5,000, I'll show you how I'm looking. All right, I'll be right back. We've gotten through 5,000 grit, and you'll notice like there's a bit of a shine coming back. I can see the reflection of the overhead lights in the finish, but there's still a haze that will be removed once I do the 8,000 grit and then start going through the polishing with the compound. Again, the key points that you gotta keep in mind: watch your high spots, watch your creases. Be careful around the door lines. You might, if you didn't do adequate body prep, you might have paint buildup by the door line that is gonna show up and look different. There's gonna be definite humps that are gonna be a problem. Again, that's something where you got to do really adequate body preparation. It's not just, don't just take a body out of a kit and just prime it and start painting it. You're gonna have problems down the line. Paint preparation is the most important step preparing your surface to be painted. And in the case of this particular body, for being a slush casted resin body, not to toot my own horn, but I got this thing fairly straight. Is it perfect? I think it's as good as this body was ever going to be able to be. And by slush casting, I don't know for sure, but to me this looks like this was just resin poured into a mold, allowed to cure, and then taken out. Pressure casting would mean that the resin was first quickly put in a vacuum chamber to remove any air from it, then poured into the mold, and then placed into a pressure pot where upwards of 80 psi of pressure would be applied, and that would force the bubbles out of the resin while it's in the mold, resulting in denser, less aerated resin, which would be more like plastic, and actually very similar to a 3D printed body like this 73 Dodge Ram Charger. One of the advantages of 3D printing is you do get bodies that tend to be very, very similar in behavior to injection molded plastic, and at the very least very close to pressure casted resin. But I am happy with the results so far. I never go wrong with Scale Finishes paint or splash paints. Beautiful stuff, as well as MCW automotive finishes. You can't go wrong with this stuff. They're outstanding products for the scale modeler, and they produce outstanding results. So I'm gonna get through the 8,000 grit, and then we're gonna start hitting it with the compound. Now, if you notice that you're getting buildup of sanding dust in your nooks and crannies and your crevices, just know that at the end you could very easily just put water in your airbrush, crank your compressor up, and just spray, and that will get it out. And then you take a microfiber cloth and polish from there. You're going to be handling the body, so like I wouldn't do wax until it's just about done. So let me do the 8,000 grit, and I will be back. And we're back after 8,000 grit. Now you'll notice there is still considerable haze, but the see, like there in the trunk, you're starting to see you can see the overhead light. The compound's going to do the rest from here. Really whipping this paint, this finish at this point is not gonna do anything other than increase the risk of burning through. And I think I could still get a pretty nice finish out of this. A note about adhesive. A note about abrasives. Now, this is 3M Trizact 3000 grit. This is Tamiya Sponge 3000 grit. I've mentioned this before in other videos. Grit is not universal. It's not standardized, and it's capricious and arbitrary. for no other better term, I might as well use it, a line from Seinfeld. And yes, I know it's a legal term, but capricious and arbitrary is a good way to describe the grit system of sandpaper and abrasives. So if you're adopting an abrasive system, know its relative abrasiveness in comparison to other products that you might have. When it comes to, and I've tried the God Hand abrasives for other projects. They're excellent, but brands don't necessarily match up in terms of abrasives. So your 3M Trizact 3000, 5000, 8000 grit, it's like a foam backed pad. This is actually supposed to like Velcro onto an orbital or some type of machine in order to use it, and we just use it for a different purpose. It's not going to match up with your Tamiya. It's not going to match up with God Hand. It's not going to match up with Infini. So you have to know what each one is going to do and use them accordingly. And that comes down to trial and error. You got to, and always do this kind of stuff off the project. As I always say, don't experiment on the project, because you could wind up, oh, well, 3000 is the same, 3000 is 3000 is 3000 because it's the same number. This Tamiya 3000 is notably more abrasive than this 3000 grit Trizact. Notice you can't really hear it. Now listen. It's tactily, you can feel it, that this is more abrasive and more aggressive of a grit. So that's just something to keep in mind. A lot of people will use the micro mesh system. I'm not going to tell you. Figure out what's best for you. You could use what I use, and that would be great. I would always recommend, if whatever system you decide upon using, that it be cushioned in some way, just to give you a little bit of a cushion, so that you're not with just an abrasive paper, an abrasive sheet. You're going to be applying more pressure to the finish itself and run a risk of, number one, building up heat, and heat is your fastest route to burning through. So I would always recommend some form of backing, and that's really the best that I could tell you. I gotta be honest with you, if you can afford it, get the 3M Trizact. I think this size comes in, there's 5 sheets in here. I've had this 3,000 grit. I'm down to I still have 2.5 sheets left in here. I think I've had this for probably 2.5 years now, maybe 15 cars. I've been, and I'm not even, I'm about halfway through this box, and I believe it was about 20 bucks, 25 bucks. This one was bigger. This one was $54. But it's 15 sheets. So, and this is gonna last a long time. I don't think I'll ever have to buy another box of 5,000 grit Trizact. So the 8,000 grit, what I used to do is I used to jump out of 3M, and then after 5,000 grit Trizact, I would jump to UMP, Ultimate Modeling Products. This is their buffing stick. This is slightly more abrasive than the 5,000, but for some reason it worked. And then this, the back is 12,000 grit, which it's glove leather. It's the same thing that you know when you're shropping a razor blade. This is what you're using. You're using glove leather. You ever notice, like in the old movies, when a barber would sharpen his razor, he did it on a belt? Leather is that's what this is. This is the abrasiveness of leather. If you have glove leather, feel it. It's a very similar. It's for stropping, and you're doing essentially the same thing. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get into the polishing compound, and we'll start to bring this shine up. And once that's done, so my process from this point forward is going to be applying the Meguiar's, not over the whole body, a panel at a time, and working it off with the Tack Life rotary tool, cordless rotary tool with the wool polishing wheel. Once I'm done with that and I've achieved a good enough finish that I like, and it might take a couple of applications, I will go on to this Meguiar's Scratch X Fine Scratch Remover. Apply that same thing, and then use the rotary tool to, and this will Scratch X will generally remove whatever scratches are left, unless you're really gouged in there with some heavy grits. This is gonna get rid of it. And then once that's done, I'll go over it with, this is a Tamiya polishing cloth. I'll just go through, dip it in water, and spot polish as needed. So once I'm gonna do the compound and show you where I'm at, and then I'll do the Scratch X and come back in. All right? I figured I'd just do it on camera. So I shake this up. And rather than try to apply this, see that? at this point, this is so caked up and clogged, I'd never get anything out of there anyway. So I use this. Take my applicator. This is a Tamiya applicator. You can, if you on Amazon, if you search for Tamiya sponge applicator, this will come up in a set of 3. So, and the same thing with the abrasive. I'm gonna do my best to stay away from edges, because not as likely, but still certainly possible to burn through with compound. And I'm gonna watch that little ridge right there on the trunk. Make sure I stay away from that. I have some photo etch that I'm going to be using for the locks, so I'm not overly concerned. I usually would have sanded off the locks, but I was concerned when sanding this body on a resin body. When you're trying to sand things off, you run the risk of hitting a bubble, and then you got a gouge, and then you got a problem, and then you're literally digging a hole, and you got to dig yourself out. So there was one script on here, but it wasn't correct, because this body itself, I think I said this portion here, from this portion this way, and from this portion this way, it's the Revell dart. And then the rear end and the front clip is from either the LA Dot or some other, maybe an annual. And then, like I showed you, I hope I mentioned it, that this is a 3D printed grill for a 72 Demon, which, believe it or not, is as close as I could get. So we'll see how we do. As this might get a little messy, let me move these out of here. Not that it'll damage them. It's just, you could get like dust from the compound. Things are getting crowded on this desk. I should probably do some... It is spring, so maybe I'll do some spring cleaning. Alright, I'll be quiet and speed up through this. That was water. This actually helps, believe it or not. I use the second speed on this rotary tool. So as you can see, first you're going to see a haze, and then you're going to see the shine. Alright, I'm going to apply it to the roof, and then I'm going to do the rest off camera, because holding it out here where it's visible by the camera is painful for my arm. Sorry. I'll suffer for you as much as I can, but I won't suffer that much. Still hurts. It's over 6 months and it's still killing me, my arm. Well, c'est la vie. And you'll notice I don't put a lot of compound on. I don't cake it on there. Because if this stuff dries, and then you really run the risk. And you got a lot on there, you really run the risk of burning through. You see the shine starting to come up. I'm not really putting a lot of pressure. So now you see that on the roof. I can bring that shine up a little bit more with a little bit of water. And a little more of the compound. Same thing. Apply to get the haze. And then work the haze out. So, by no means perfect. I mean, this is not a... This is as good as I could get this surface, given the surface that it is, given what I had to work with. And it's not showing well on camera. It doesn't look as good in the screen as it does in person. It looks pretty good in person. It looks good enough. You know what good enough is gonna have to be? Good enough. Okay, I'll be back after I finish with the compound. The polishing with the Meguiar's 105 Ultra Cut compound is complete. I'm about to move on to Scratch X, and there aren't really any scratches in it. It's just the nature of the beast. Being a slush cast, I don't want to besmirch the product. I paid $40 for this body. I think I got what I paid for. But there's a reason why the best resin bodies are upwards of $100, if you know what I'm saying. I'll put it to you that way. So there are some undulations and dips, and that no matter what, and I don't have, I think this is the best result that I can get given my skill set and what I'm working with. So we'll do the Scratch X, and then I'll go over with my airbrush and some water to get the compounds out of the body lines, and we'll take a look once that's done. Hold on. And here we are left with the polished body, the hood, and the chassis. Now, I don't know how, if you're a regular subscriber to the channel, or how you arrived on this video, but I am aware that Mopars of this era were dipped in primer, and any paint that would be on the underside would have been fogged when the body itself was painted. But I like to build my Mopars with semi-gloss subframes, which is why you see them like in that condition, and with fully painted in the body color, as if it's over restored. That's the style that I go for. I'm aware it's not fundamentally absolutely factory correct. I'm aware of it. I just prefer to build them this way. I'm sure that's not going to stop you from either messaging me on Facebook or sending me an email or commenting below, but I do have to say it every single time, because when I get the inevitable contact telling me how wrong I am and that I don't know what I'm talking about, I refer them to this disclaimer that I make every time I do this with a Mopar. This is a personal preference of the way that I build them. I just like this. It's a more finished look. And to further frustrate you, here's another Dodge Dart, 1968, painted the same. Oh, wait a minute. Here's a 69 Dodge Charger. I did the same thing. But I'm not done there. No. Here's another 68 Charger, done the same way. It's just a stylistic choice that I make to do them in an over-restored style. So, now, up next, Dylan has his grill area blacked out with a chrome surround. And I got to do the amber for the turn signals. And I have the bumper. It's already chromed using Revell Chrome Spray. So that will be placed there. I do have the bumper slash taillight panel that will go in here. That's chromed. And work will continue. I do have to paint the interior white to match Dylan's car. And things will progress. We will get there. After wet sanding and polishing the body, I blacked out the grill. As I stated, this is a 3D printed, believe it or not, 72 Demon. It's the same grill, basically. And then I painted the headliner because Dylan's got a white interior. So now I have to apply bare metal foil to the window trim. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I'll get through it. So once that's done, I'll bring you back. Yeah, I snuck that little part about priming with pink for yellow plastic. I remember that tip. That's going back a good, I would say, 8 years. When I was building model planes, I had a little foray into model planes, and I saw a gentleman on Facebook was building a Chipmunk, which was a training aircraft that the United Kingdom used. And in order to paint the tail, which was supposed to be yellow, he primed in pink, and people were like, what did you prime in pink for? He goes, it's the best primer for yellow. So I tried it, because there weren't a lot of pink primers at that time, at least not that I knew of. They weren't especially popular, but I did have the Tamiya pink in this small bottle, and I just tried it. I tested it out, and it turns out he was right. It requires a lot less coats in order to get full coverage, which, the more coats you're putting on, the more detail you're potentially losing. So what you're going to notice in the next episode is this puppy's done. I forgot, not that I forgot, I just didn't want to take the time to
film while I was putting the pieces on fixtures and painting the individual parts, because it was also jumbled in with my USAC dot that's going on, and also the parts for the 2 chargers that I'm also building, which, you know, eventually they're going to be done. So like that would have been harder than it already was. But in the finale, I'll go over the parts of the model, and I'll show you what I used, how I arrived, and what I got to where I got. You'll see. So tune in. All right? As always, I got Frizzo's back. I appreciate your support. And until we speak again, my friends, take care of yourselves and be well.